Hello everybody, this is Kenya, and in this video I'll be talking about Python for backend jobs. First thing I need you to understand is that Python is one of the it's like a very easy tool when working as a backend guy, kind of solving some backend stuffs. Um, Apart from the fact that we have looked at the other areas, it being readable and all of that, there are a lot of modules that help you do the job very fast. Now we have Fast API, which is a very good library that helps you create APIs in seconds here in Python. We also have Flask. Flask is also a wonderful library. It helps you also create APIs very fast. Uh, List I forget, we also have the Django. The Django kind of is a full framework. It helps you with everything relating to web when it comes to Python. So you can kind of check out all of these libraries. And I also want to say today's video, I'm going to be using an AI tool. Um, I'm going to show us how vibe coding can be very easy. So this video is not supposed to be a long one because I've kind of given a lot of prompts to the AI tool and we already have our code. So here I have created a folder called Python Backend and I have created three files. The first one is api.py. This api.py will house the core of our API, and the next one here is our DB setup. So the data we are going to get from the front end guy, we are going to put it in a DB. We have different kinds of database systems. DB is short for database if you're very new to the system. And we have different kinds of database systems. We have the general SQL guys, which include PostgreSQL, MySQL, and SQLite. We also have DBs like MongoDB and the rest. There are a lot, but I think the ones that are very popular in the industry are the ones I've outlined. And I think we have BigQuery and some other ones. So for a start, I'll be using SQLite, as the name implies. It looks like a file. It's easily movable, and it helps you play around with a lot of things, and you get to understand how DB system work before you can upgrade to stuff like Postgre. Postgre is very awesome. MySQL is also very awesome. They have the advantages and disadvantages. You can do a deep search on everything. But kind of breaking all of that here will make the video too lengthy. So I'm just going to go straight and we're going to build an application. In this particular application, well, let's look at it's going to be more of like a reservation system. So we want people to reserve by dropping their names and their emails, and we can actually reach them, via their names and their emails, say for a party or for some random thing we intend to do. So for our front end, we'll be using the index.html. If you are extremely new and you don't even know what HTML is, well, let me just break it down. HTML is the language for the web. HTML is like the language that mobile browsers understand. So as much as we always argue in the world of programming, if HTML is actually a programming language or not, because it lacks basic syntax, it only has tags. Uh, it has language at the end of it. So it is short for hypertext markup language. It's a very good one. It was created totally, for the idea of transmitting data from one endpoint to another on the web. Basically, just for displays on endpoints. I don't know if I've kind of done justice to that, but yeah, that's what. So every website you see actually is made up of HTML, right? The core of every website is HTML. It doesn't matter if you're using React, the framework you're using. It doesn't matter if you're using Flutter or Vig, but at the end of the day, whatever you're using is sending HTML and CSS to the browser. Now, CSS is the style sheet that HTML uses. Now, as I explained before, that HTML is just a bunch of tags. The CSS is more of like the style to that tags. Yeah. So my battery is low. So I think most of my videos, my battery is always low. I really don't know why. So let's go on. So I'm going to pair this hand in hand with some AI tool. GPT comes right here, and so what we are going to do. This is my prompt, as you can see. Yeah. So this is my prompt, and then as you can see from GPT, we have highlighted that we'll be using Flask, SQLite, HTML, a tiny bit of JavaScript. Yeah, so most modern websites use a combination of those three things. HTML for the tags, CSS for the styling, and JS as JavaScript for the reactions. So most times when we want to call on an endpoint or do some stuff of that nature, we kind of use JavaScript to achieve that. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to plant it in my DB setup. I'm just going to paste everything here and I'll save it. Now, at this point, you should understand that we're getting to a stage of vibe coding. So we're just going to use this to create a DB database, the table in this database. The database will be data.db, and as you can see, it's MySQLite. So I'm going to open this particular file in my terminal so that you don't get confused. I think I should just close this because I'm not using this right now. Yeah, I've closed that and we have this. So I'm going to put this side by side so it's easy for all of us to understand. This would also mean that you need full internet access if you're watching this on YouTube so that you can see my characters clearly. And you may want to manually increase the quality, yeah, of the video so that you are watching in the highest resolution. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to run um, Python 3 my DB setup, my DB setup.py. The goal of this is to kind of create a DB. Aha, so we have done that. We've created a data.db. The next thing is for us to create our API. And as you can see, stage 2 here, GPT says we have to create our API. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right here, right? Now, if we review all of this, you understand that there are just two libraries here. We are using two main libraries. The first one is Flask and the second one is SQLite 3. Now we are using SQLite 3 to connect to this DB we have created, and we are inserting the data we receive from the front-end guy into our DB, right? So the route, yeah, the route here is an endpoint we have created, and this endpoint is /signup, right? So if the front end calls this particular route, we know exactly what to expect, and if we don't receive that, we will throw some JSON error. Like you see, name and email are required. So if the front end guy is not sending us the name and email and he's calling this route, we can tell him, no bro, oh man, you're missing the name and the email. And if you look here, you can see the method we are using here is called the post method. Now there are two main kind of popular methods. It's the get and the post method. We use the post method when we are trying to transfer things that contain sensitive data. People's emails are very sensitive because you don't want anybody getting in between, the email of someone. If you have a lot of people in your DB and somebody breaks that, he can, send a lot of spam out, and we don't really want that to happen. So whenever you're doing things like trying to store passwords or trying to get password or trying to store emails or very unique form of data into your DB, what you need, the method you need to use is the post method. Then the get method also has unique cases where you have to use them. You should use the get method if maybe what you're working on is not very sensitive, like for instance a search engine. You want to search some sentence or some words, right? You can use a get method to get that, and that is always better because that query system is kind of also stored in the browser, and it's easy for people to share that. So it depends on what you want to achieve. The get and the post method, they have their advantages and disadvantages. The interesting thing about back-end development is that you're just going to make a lot of research on your own to understand the best things that work for you, because later on you'll be doing things like authentication systems, verification systems, and you'll be creating things to kind of safeguard your DB from hackers. And that is a whole lot of improvement to this video, because you'll be using things like prepared statements, and you make sure that hackers can't penetrate whatever you're building. But I'm trying to keep this very simple, and the goal of this video is to introduce you and keep you in the pedestrian to accelerate as a Python backend developer. So as you can see, I've created the first route here, and this route fires this function, and this function gets the name and the email. And if it doesn't work right, if the name and email is not present, we throw some response to the front end guy. Then we try to save it, right? That's why this try comes in here. We try to save it to our DB, and if it successfully works, we send out successfully registered. If it doesn't, we know that SQL has some issues with injecting this particular data, and we throw out this error. And we pop our app up and everything was good. We set up debug mode because this is not production, and we're putting it in port 5000. Now there are a lot of ports in the system. If there's anything you should know right now is that when this code runs, it is going to run in port 5000, and you'll see how that works, because it is going to affect how the URL looks like, right? So with that being said, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run the Python tree, and I'm going to call our api.py, and you see the magic starts here, and we are live. Now if you look carefully, you can see what happens here. So this is the endpoint where we can access this API, right? So if we're going to copy this endpoint and we're going to use it in our front end, right? Our front end is this simple index.html file. So if you scroll down, you're going to see our front end code, the index.html file, and it's going to be a very simple one. So I'm going to paste that right here, and I'll save. This is more of like vibe coding with AI. AI is doing most of the code writing. I'm doing most of the prompting, and I'm doing most of the debugging. So as you can see, this is a URL. If your URL is a little bit different, maybe if your Python runs, if your code runs and you have something a little bit different here, you should copy that and replace this slash sign up. Our API has the route of sign up. That's why we have slash sign up here at the end. So I'm going to save this, and we are going to test run right here, right? So I'm going to open this, and I'm going to insert my name, yeah, and I'm going to click submit. Okay, so now you see what happens here is you can see from here that the data reached the server, but it was blocked, right? And I kind of uh, made us pass through this particular error message because it's a very common one. The course policy is a very common one. It happens when page in a different domain, as we see here, is trying to access an API in another domain, like we see here. So these domains are quite different, as you see, because most times people believe that if you have a website, say markjohn.com, markjohn.com should house the front end and the back end together. But if you are going to create a system where the back end is in another domain and the front end is in another domain, then you have to uh, allow for this cross sending of data. You need to allow these systems to uh, cross and share the data that they receive. Now it has some security implications that you can actually bypass if you do set it up right. So I prompt ChatGPT again, as you can see below, and it gave us the exact response that we need. So the fix is to include the cross. Yeah, as you can see, and the CORS, let me not call that cross. So we're going to copy this and we're going to our API.py and we're going to select all, Control V, Control S, and that automatically improves everything. So now if we go back here and we fire submit, user successfully registered. Now what happened? You may be wondering what happened. So let's expand this so we see exactly what happens. If you expand the view of your browser, you go under the network tab, you can see that the first one that we sent had the calls issue and it didn't fire properly, even though this is the data we sent, right? This is the payload, and the response was dark because nothing happened. Now this is the second one we sent and the response was status successful and user registered, blah 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 blah, same payload. Now the only difference is that here we had not set up to allow for cross-domain interchange of data, and here we did set up for that. So if you are building an API for the public, you should actually set it up this way. If you are building an API just for your domain, you should do it this way. Now it has disadvantage and advantage, because if you do it this way, nobody from any other domain can access your work, your endpoints, except you and your domain and and your work. But this way, everybody can access. So you will need to introduce systems like limiting rates, so that you can limit how people are using your API. And you may also want to introduce things like filtering some domains, and adding some whitelisted and blacklisted domains and stuff like that, including filtering IP addresses and endpoints, and that makes the whole job very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so the next thing I just want to do is I want to improve the UI a little bit so we can see exactly what happened. So I'm going to copy this. I've already given the prompt. I'll also share this particular work I've done here with GPT so people can continue to work on it and improve it. So I'm just going to update uh, our index. What really happens is when we get success, we close up the form and we alert the user. So I'm going to update all of these and I'm going to save that. I'm going to also take this and I'm going to update the API.py and I'll save this. So everything has restarted. I like flags auto restarts by itself. So when I restart this, you can see this is a very cool one, and we can sign up. We're going to sign up with a different name now, and we're going to use a different email. Okay, and we click submit. User successfully registered, and you can see the user is now appended here. We're also sending this and we are getting the list of users. So if you also check, you can see that we are getting it from our API. We have created another route for users, and that gets all the users present, and the sign up kind of injects a name and email, while the users return all of the user present. Yep, I think my battery didn't end the video. So, all right, so until we see again, I intend to explain more back-end Python concepts. You can try doing this with fast API and just tell me the difference, or with another module. So thank you very much and have a nice day.